Ladies and gentlemen, hand cannons have seen a lot of changes recently. 140s were merged with 150s, 180s saw a significant magazine increase, and 110s saw their fire rates increase to 120. And on top of that, all hand cannons across the board saw an increase to their physical range. And with all these changes, I feel like hand cannons are once again the premier weapon to be using in the Crucible. But out of all the hand cannons that we currently have in the game, one has always kind of been an outlier. It's that one piece to the puzzle that doesn't quite fit. So, the question begs to be asked, what's going on with Crimson? How did the recent changes affect its performance, and does it keep pace with the current PvP meta? But not only that, do these changes make Crimson a solid choice on the PvE side of the game once again? I'll try to answer those questions in this review, and if you do find this video helpful, useful, or enjoyable, please leave it a like and consider subscribing to the Ironworker Gaming channel if you found some value in the content. And with that, let's get into the review with a look at Crimson's stats and perks. Crimson is an exotic kinetic hand cannon firing at 415 rounds per minute with 24 rounds in the magazine. If the fire rate seems a little bit odd to you, that's due to its intrinsic trait, Banned Weapon, stating that Crimson fires a 3-round burst. For the stats, we'll pull in some solid numbers from Light.gg, and on paper, Crimson kinda looks like the most amazing weapon in the entire game. Scoring very strong marks in impact and stability. We have a solid 64 for the reload, and the range stat is being pushed up to 80 by the Catalyst. The handling on Crimson is pretty average, but it's not bad by any means. Taking a look at the hidden stats, we do have an aim assist value of 75, which is okay. It's not terribly high, but it's plenty serviceable. We also have a bounce intensity of 45 and a vertical recoil direction, but do expect this gun to climb a little bit as the burst releases. The exotic perk on Crimson is Cruel Remedy, so kills with this weapon will heal the wielder, and precision kills will also refill the magazine. There's not a whole lot to talk about there, but we'll dive into that a little further when we get into the PvP testing. For now though, let's do a little PvE damage testing and talk about the weapon's performance on that side of the game. Alright, we'll start off by getting a general sense of Crimson's single target damage output. And for continuity's sake, we will be testing in the Conflux Lost sector on Nessus, and we'll be weighing our damage against the Colossus boss. Crimson is hitting for 1,217 points of damage per bullet, totaling out to 3,651 damage for a single burst. To the body, we're looking at 761 points of damage per bullet, so 2,283 for a single burst. So with that 24 round magazine, if every bullet in the mag lands as a crit, we're going to output a total of 29,208 points of damage on a single target. For the measuring stick, we're going to start going with Hawkmoon. I like it because the single shot damage does line up with other 140 RPM hand cannons. But if we need to start looking at serious damage potential, Hawkmoon can do that for us also. But each crit landed by Hawkmoon is hitting for 2,793 points of damage, which is actually a good bit less than Crimson when you go trigger pull for trigger pull. But if every round in the magazine does land as a crit, that final round's putting out over 50,000 points of damage, making the clip-to-clip damage comparison really not a contest. But Crimson was never really built for single target damage in mind. This weapon, being a kinetic primary, does excel at ad clear, and it does this job very well. I mean, there's nothing flashy or exciting about it, but since you're constantly getting bullets loaded back in the magazine with each precision kill, it's not often that you're going to have to stop shooting. And also with the health regeneration, Crimson is a fantastic survivability tool. If you're in an activity where staying alive is a priority, this weapon is one that you can lean on. And since this weapon does have a catalyst available, it is able to generate orbs of power for us. But Crimson's overall effectiveness does diminish a little bit in more difficult content. As with all exotic primary weapons, you do need to take a look at if this is the best way to spend your exotic slot. And as enemies start tanking more damage, it does require additional trigger pulls to put them down, so the Cruel Remedy perk is gonna start working a little less often. I mean, you're still getting bullets reloaded, which is great, and your health is still getting refreshed, also great. It's just not gonna happen as frequently as it does in baseline activities. But with that covered, let's head into the Crucible and see how Crimson is faring over there. Alright, moving into PvP and starting off with the damage numbers. Crimson is scoring 31 points of damage on a crit and 20 points of damage to the body. True values are actually a little bit less due to number rounding, but this gives us an optimal time to kill of just over 0.9 seconds, requiring 5 crits and 2 body shots, and a body shot time to kill of 1.44 seconds, requiring 11 shots landed. For the physical range, in the previous sandbox, Crimson could deal full damage from roughly 28 meters away. Now we're hitting for full damage from up to 33 meters away, and 5 meters might not seem like much, but this pushes us back into what I would consider extended range territory. This will keep you outside of a lot of other weapons' optimal range. It helps a lot. On a precision kill, your magazine will also be fully reloaded, and these bullets are not pulled from reserves. These are automatically generated. Just keep in mind there is a slight delay between the physical kill and the bullet refund. Also, when you secure a kill, your health regen will begin immediately. Now you don't get an initial chunk of health on a kill, but if you're low enough, both your health bar and your shield meter will refresh at the same time. One last thing to look at here, and that's the recoil. It appears that the most noticeable pop from the burst comes between bullets 1 and 2, with 2 and 3 landing much closer to each other. Now, this doesn't happen like clockwork every single time. There is a certain degree of randomness here, but this is the general trend. What's my point? It's probably wise to aim just below the chin and let the gun carry the bullets up to the head. There's enough bullet magnetism here that all shots should land as crits. Most of the time. Performance-wise, Crimson feels more like the Crimson that I remember back in year 1 of Destiny 2. And this is all due to that increase in the physical range. Crimson is essentially a pulse rifle that has to adhere to hand cannon rules. And when hand cannon ranges weren't stretching nearly as far back in the previous sandbox, Crimson felt very unnatural to me. This essentially made the wielder play at close to mid-range with a slower firing burst fire weapon. But now in Beyond Light, we have the option. You can use this at closer ranges like a hand cannon if you would like, or you can step back and be effective at longer ranges like you could with a pulse rifle. And in my opinion, this added versatility does Crimson a world of good. Next, Crimson has always been a phenomenal rumble weapon. The auto-reloading and the health regen work perfectly in that game mode. Now, I'm personally not much of a rumble player, but people do love this weapon in there. Crimson has become a staple of the game mode. And Crimson's time to kill values are looking okay. Not because they themselves got better, because they didn't. But with 600 RPM auto rifles and the bulk of hand cannons seeing their time to kills slowed down a touch, this brought Crimson up. Now, an optimal time to kill at 0.9 seconds is just a little bit slower than your standard 140 RPM hand cannons, coming in at 0.87. But instead of having to land all crits like you would with a standard hand cannon to down your target, Crimson can land 5 crits and 2 body shots, allowing for a little extra forgiveness. And then the body shot time to kill at 1.44 seconds is very solid. You really can't ask for much more here out of a hand cannon. On top of that, all the in-game benefits from using Crimson are backed up by some very solid stats, across the board pretty much. Reload and handling could be a little bit better I suppose, but both of these stats are easily compensated for with armor mods. There are a few drawbacks I'd like to touch on, the first being, this still feels weird to me. A 3-round burst firing from a hand cannon just doesn't feel natural. And I've been using this gun off and on for 3 years now, and my brain still just doesn't like seeing that burst come out. And another thing I kinda struggle with is your damage can get split up with the burst. With a standard hand cannon, it's easier for me to keep track of where my target is at health-wise. I can count the headshots, count the body shots, count the misses. I always know what I need to finish them off. With Crimson firing a 3-round burst, I mean, some of those shots might go body, you might clip one to the head, a few might miss. It's just harder for me to keep track of where I'm at in a gunfight. Now at longer ranges, this isn't as big of an issue, but when I'm in tight, I want to know exactly where I stand at all times. And this can be difficult with Crimson. Lastly, Crimson just doesn't duel as well as other hand cannons do. While the 3-round burst isn't a major hindrance here, you do need to maintain line of sight and track your target just a little bit longer than you would with a standard hand cannon. And in the same vein, the in-air accuracy doesn't feel great on Crimson, and being a burst fire weapon, it's understandable. And being an exotic weapon, we can't throw an Icarus grip mod on here to help that out at all. And I'm not saying that it can't land shots from the air, but it does perform best when your boots are on the ground. Well, a few months ago I made a video ranking all of the exotic hand cannons in Destiny 2, and I didn't rank Crimson very high on that list. But I can confidently say that if I were to make that same video right now, Crimson would be moving up the list for sure. And I really think it's cool to see how just a little bit of extra physical range and some sandbox shifts around a specific weapon can really change the feel and performance. Crimson just inherently feels better, with engagement and playstyle versatility built in now. And its performance, I think it stacks up pretty well against other weapons in the current sandbox. So yeah, right now, I think Crimson is a very solid option. Not that it ever really wasn't, but Crimson right now is as good as I ever remember it being on either side of the game. And if you did enjoy this video, please remember to leave it a like, and consider subscribing to the Ironworker Gaming channel to see more Destiny 2 content in the very near future. If you'd like to catch me live, I do occasionally stream on Twitch. If you'd like to head over there, look for Ironworker814 and drop me a follow, you'll get notified whenever I hop on. And to contact me, simply comment down below and I'll be sure to get back to you. But with all that being said, I'd like to thank you for taking the time out of your day to check out this weapon review. You guys are awesome, and I will catch you on the next one.